Hello, Ian Michael here, and let's do this part one, looking back at the start of the Dreamcast scene. Who were the main members, and who helped to make KallistiOS and the homebrew dev kit that we have now, with names like Dan Potter and Marcus Comsat and Gangsoft and Andrew K. Palm. Let's look back and see how this all started. So let's look back now at Dan Potter. This is an interview with Boob interview with Dreamcast Research, and they ask, "Can you tell us where you were born, where you live, your family and details, etc." Dan. Dan Potter says, "I was born in Dallas, Texas, and lived there for 16 years until I moved out for college in Denton, also Texas, and then Austin, again Texas. My dad's a geek of sorts himself, working as a machinist for engineers at design shops and occasionally doing a bit of design work himself. His hobby now is making wind chimes and selling them at various weekend markets. He's probably responsible in large part for me getting into computers and technology at all. I've got two older sisters who harass me incessantly about how much of a geek I am. In a good-natured way, of course. My stepmoms always ask when I'll strike it rich in my game development work, so that they can retire to Colorado, but I suppose for the near future I'll have to keep saying soon. I have lived in Austin, Texas since 1996, where I've been going to college. I recently lived in Tusker, Arizona for 9 months, and I will move back there once I finish my degree. Can't beat the scenery, hiking, biking, amazing dark sky for astronomy geeks, etc. Just a great place. And I guess Jessica, the girlfriend moving back there, helped me to make the decision." What qualifications do you have, and what made you get into computers? I'm kind of combining these two because they're quite related. Where do I start? Says Dan Potter. I did warn you about that heading inflation thing. When I was 4 years old, my father brought home a speaking spell from Texas Instruments, where he was working at the time. The employees store, good discounts, etc. I think from that moment on, it was too late for me getting interested in anything else for quite a while. I got a TA-94 4A home computer when I was 5 or so, and grew up from the simple console with BASIC and logo to a home computer workstation. BASIC console had extra RAM and speech synth hacked into it, a new cooler power supply, expansion box with persistent RAM disk, and 2 floppy drives. All these goodies on the thing, and I learned 98,000 assembly, and we bought a PC not too long after that. I guess it went from there. I spent most of my waking hours at school or on the computer. I wrote a tracker called Fodolo Composer, which some of you may remember with curses. I participated somewhat as a side in the PC demo scene at the time, but we never really made much in the way of demos, and did a lot of talking. Ah well. I got a few friends from that time. I had a BBS called Programmer's Oasis, if anyone remembers. I participated in competitions, programming teams in high school, and it was a geeky high school, science engineering magnet, so we were like football stars of the school. That was pretty damn cool for a change. I then left there after 2 years and going to the Texas Academy of Math and Science in Denton, where they shut you in a dorm with 399 other smart and mischievous people for 2 years. Man, was that a ride. I got my high school diploma and 2 years of college there, and moved to Austin to finish a CS computer science degree at Utah, and I'm still trying, but I've almost got it. I'll stop there before I bore everyone, but suffice to say I've been sitting in front of a keyboard for a large part of my life since 5, and I'm now 23. I've got a strong interest, probably thanks to school, in understanding in computational science how things should work rather than just getting them working. But just kicking back and coding is quite enjoyable as well. What projects in coding have you done, Dan, previous to any Dreamcast program? I listed a few above, but of the interest to the Dreamcast community, of course, the demos. I also worked on several aborted game projects attempting with a friend of mine from science engineering. Hi Matt! These started with a simple overhead tile map progressing over the years to a full Quake-style engine with source lighting and a custom scripting engine. Also, a trivia value is that KallistiOS DC was not the first incarnation of KOS. Most people probably don't know this. KallistiOS KOS was originally a project for PC. I had a book called Advanced 386 Programming, and I think that was it, and it introduced me to protected module, multitasking, etc. I had to sit down and write one. I did all of that from that book and manuals I found on the net, so it proves you don't need a bunch of official dev material nor a degree to do this sort of thing, just a keen interest and a lot of determination. What made you get into Dreamcast development? Dan Potter. It was almost an accident, quite literally. My roommate Phil invited us over to play Soul Calibur a long time ago, and I was so floored by the amazingness of the game, and obviously the system underneath it, that I added to the near top of my acquire when money arrives list. Soon after I bought the DC, they sent me an image of CDX. Now this was fantastic because I could play imports and all of that, but it also got the gears turning in my head. If I can burn a normal CDR and run it on the DC with their code, why not replace their code and burn my own anyway? I started hacking on the CDX and eventually found Marcus Comset's site. I didn't have a coder's cable at the time, so Tercy helped me out by running my test programs and sending a screenshot. I got on the mailing list and starting being more active with it. In a few weeks, I couldn't stand the suspense any longer. Me and Jordan ordered the parts and built 2 cables. I bought a SCSI CDR to burn DC CDs with, since the one at work didn't do the job. Tercy and I worked on what was to become LibDream for a little while, and eventually that did morph into LibDream, and I later got discussing the idea with Jordan of writing a real embedded operating system for Dreamcast, and that was when KallistiOS was born. It shares the name and some of the concepts of the original KallistiOS 386, but none of the code. Things just went from there. Was Ghetto Pong a good landing step onto bigger things, and how complex it was to code and get running nicely? Dan Potter. Oh yeah, Ghetto Pong was Jordan's baby, actually. He wanted to write a Pong clone for the DC just to play around with the coding assets of it. So the original Ghetto Pong was actually just a red square moving across the screen with green block paddles. That's why it's Ghetto. I took that work of his and added menus, background music, thanks Il Mobio, and sound effects, and his brother Kyle added some graphics. The result is Ghetto Pong you see today. End of part 1.